Zoning docket 05623.
This is a request for City Council motion M23231 for a text amendment to Article 14, Section 14.2A, Table 14-1 of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance to disallow dwellings above the ground floor, townhouses, multifamily dwellings, group homes, small and large, and permanent supportive housing in the SLM Lake Area Marina District. The proposed text amendment would affect all properties in the SLM district by amending Article 14 of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance to only permit residential boathouses. This limitation on residential development will be consistent with the district's existing land use pattern, which features boathouses as a primary residential development. Presently, the SLM district contains existing multi-story, multi-family dwellings and dwellings above the ground floor, which will become non-conforming uses. Nevertheless, staff find the proposed restriction to be compatible with the master plan, as the master plan limits residential uses to single-family dwellings and boathouses. Therefore, staff recommends approval.
Is there anyone from council present? If not, we have one common card. In opposition, Ron Duplessis.
Good afternoon. I'm Ron Duplessis, 7300 Lakeshore Drive, New Orleans, Louisiana. I am the president of the Homeowners Association of the Lighthouse Harbor Condominiums. And to my understanding, this particular change in the ordinance would make our 40-year-old complex in good repair with a 92-year lease remaining non-compliant. I don't know how we got pushed into this section being across the canal, but my gosh, this changes the asset base of mortgage companies. It changes our lease with the Lakeshore Management Authority, and virtually we have nothing to do with anything across the canal. And I think a lot of people are opposed to mass change without transparency and clarity of what we've seen. And I've attended every meeting for the last year and a half. We're quite confused by all this. The Marina Authority has ordered studies, and this is all seemingly based upon change of redeveloping the Fret Park, which is very constrictive in many ways. And it has a lot of entities and a lot of property managers, including Jefferson Parish. So to pass this, I think without the proper notice, we have not received notice of this. And I'm not sure that any of the other agencies, the condominiums and developments there that have been there for years have received notice. So I would ask the commission, number one, to defer this, provide proper notice, transparency and clarity, and certainly remove Lakeshore Drive from this ordinance, because we have absolutely nothing to do with it. Basically, the question is, why isn't Felix's and the Blue Crab and a number of other businesses, what do they have to do with this? Well, the answer is nothing. So I pray to the commission to defer this or amend Lakeshore Drive from this particular ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff?
I would like the staff to respond to the concern of Mr. Duplessis.
Sure. So generally, the purpose of this really kind of, let me start over. This property has a mixed-use maritime master plan designation, and so what that is contemplating is commercial uses such as restaurants and very limited residential use, basically limited to boathouses. So the master plan, the allowable range of uses, and the area we're talking about is the area highlighted in blue on the map, says you can have just commercial uses and residential limited to boathouses. And of course, the master plan is the basis for zoning. So zoning has to do what the master plan allows. When this was implemented in terms of zoning, the zoning that was adopted was much more permissive in terms of the residential uses that it allows than the master plan was. So while the master plan only allows boathouses essentially as residential uses here, the zoning that implemented the master plan allowed multifamily, single-family, permanent supportive housing, other residential types. The proposal then is to shrink that back down so that it aligns with the master plan. So, so getting rid of those residential use types that are not allowed by that underlying master plan designation. So that's why we're recommending approval. Basically, it takes the residential uses that the zoning allows and matches it to what the master plan allows. Now, there is, the implication of that is that some existing multifamily, which predates the current zoning, predates the current master plan, would become legally non-conforming by virtue of that change.
Thank you. So the condominiums that Mr. Duplessis is speaking of, they're legal non-conforming, and until the building is not used for that purpose, they are legally.
Sure. So the way legal non-conforming works is that you retain the right to use the property, but if it goes totally vacant for more than 6 months, that property right is lost, and then it's allowed to only be used in a way that the zoning allows. And so for any, you know, multifamily that would become non-conforming, it becomes very important if it goes totally vacant and for how long it goes totally vacant.
And by totally vacant, you mean the entire complex, not any particular owner.
Right.
So
I mean,
that
ultimately,
transferring-
it's a safety and permits determination
Right.
on a case by case. But, for a fourplex, for example, all 4 units have to go vacant before the structure is considered to have stopped use.
Thank you. Are there any more questions for staff?
Do we know how many non-conforming multifamily buildings are in this area, neighborhood that's being proposed?
Staff counted 4 buildings total, or
And-
4 sites total.
That are going to be non-conforming. Also, I just wanted to know what was the basis even in the master plan for this particular change?
I think without, great recollection of sort of the master plan community meetings that led to this, I think in general, the thought was likely to create a future land use designation that was consistent with how, the kind of unique nature of this area and the fact that it historically had a mix of boathouses, which were an unusual residential type, and commercial and other lakefront activity. I don't know if there was conscious thought to, as it relates to the multifamily one way or another, but I think in general the thought was to create a master plan land use classification that matched the historical mixed use of this area.
My last question is, was there a neighborhood meeting, or what were the, what was the commentary during those meetings?
Sure. So this is a council-initiated action. The council held an NPP meeting in advance or in conjunction with initiating the motion. CPC staff did not attend, but they did provide notes as an attachment to the motion, so that's included within the staff report.
Mr. Chairman, I did bring a study of the master plan that we did within the area, and I'd like to submit it I hope I'm not out of order. If I am, I apologize, but I did bring a complete study to the master plan that we did in the local area in a collaboration of all the dwellings that would fall under this consideration.
Commissioner Lund?
Oh, I move to accept the study.
Is there a second? Well, first I'll make a motion to suspend the rules. One is,
Can't make a motion. I'll make the motion.
oh,
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules so that we can accept the information provided by the Mr. Duplessis.
is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay.
Okay, I'd like to move to accept the study from the audience representative. Yes. Yeah, so we need a second, right?
Is there a second?
Victory will second.
All in favor? Aye. I'll pass it. I'll pass it that way first. Are there any more questions for staff?
I have a question. This plan in no way infringes on the green space and recreation areas as they are currently, correct?
That's correct. Those have separate park master plan designations, so
Okay.
they would be unaffected.
Right. I'm noting a lot of concern in the written comments that remain in place, and from what I can see, it is not going to be changed, but I just wanted to say that on the record that is not something that is contemplated here, that those would in any way be compromised by what is proposed.
That's correct.
I have a question. Does this affect any commercially zoned property?
So it doesn't affect properties that have a pure solely commercial zoning. The zoning that implements this SLM does allow for some commercial use. So it's not strictly a commercial district, but it is a district that allows some commercial use.
Okay, but there aren't any changes being made to that, only to the
The changes, right, do not affect the commercial uses that the district allows.
only the more intense residential uses.
Right.
Okay. I mean, I just have a comment. Let me go ahead and say it now. That, I live in that area, and I do have concern about high rises, especially with proposed development or being considered for where the restaurants used to be, Fitzgerald, et cetera, when I was growing up. And everything was at a scale and always has been at a scale of lower and more, not at all like a Miami canal front type of atmosphere. So I would have a concern if we didn't try to keep that scale of residential building in the area. So I'm very much in favor of this. Thank you.
Question for staff. Are we on deadline?
Yes.
Thank you. Are there any further questions for staff? If not, I'll ask for a motion.
Does this zoning change affect the land lease with the levee board at all for the boathouses?
This is not a zoning change. This is a text amendment to allow residential uses to be restricted to solely boathouses in the SLM district.
But it would not affect the leases.
Okay.
Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Commissioner Brown moves to approve, seconded by Commissioner Lund. Is there any further discussion? If not, we'll call the vote. Commissioner Lund?
I think we can
machines are up.
vote.
Great, thank you. All right, we'll vote on machines.
Been warmed up.
Zoning docket 05623 passes.